flesh and blood simply means you as a mortal human being presently constituted. You in your mortal condition now, you are flesh and blood. You cannot inherit the kingdom in that condition. Now, Jesus said when he returned, look at me, I'm not a spook, I'm not a ghost, I've got flesh and bones. Whether he had blood as well, I don't know, it doesn't matter. But he has bones and flesh. He's palpable and touchable as an immortalized person. That's most important. He returned and was able to walk through the wall, to appear suddenly from nowhere and so on. But he still had flesh and bones, if you like, spiritualized flesh and spiritualized bones. What that is exactly, we'll have to wait and see. But Paul spoke of a spiritual body in 1 Corinthians 15. You see, we're so used to dichotomizing between spirit, which is not touchable and invisible, and flesh, which is touchable and visible. The Hebrew mind doesn't work that way. It's the blight of the doctrine of the immortal soul that makes things so difficult for people. Forget the idea that there's a part of you which survives death. When you die, you are dead. Show your children the famous text in Daniel 12:2. Many of those who are currently sleeping, they are sleeping, not their bodies only, but they are currently sleeping in the dust of the ground, in dustland. They're going to awake from that sleep of death. Psalm 13:3 speaks of the sleep of death. They're going to awake to the life of the future age of the kingdom. That's beautiful. So the first thing to get out of your mind is the notion that is really falsely delivered at sermon after sermon in funeral services, that the dead have already gone to heaven, that there are angels looking down. That is fundamentally false. It disturbs the entire program that God has planned for us. When you're dead, you're dead. That's Ecclesiastes 9, 5, and 10. You show your friends that one over and over again. Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verses 5 and 10. Verse 5 there says, the dead know nothing at all. That should be clear. Does anybody want to argue with that? I suggest you don't argue with it. You simply accept as a child the simplicity of those words. The dead currently know nothing. They're not playing harps in heaven. They're not looking down on the living. And then in verse 10 of Ecclesiastes 9, it said there's no activity, nothing going on at all, nix, nil, absolute absence of any activity in Sheol or Hades. The Greek has Hades, and Sheol is the Hebrew. It's the place where all the dead go, the good and the bad alike. They all go to one place when they die. That's the essence of simplicity. And the only way out of that unfortunate, dreary, unconscious state, the only way out of it is by resurrection from that state of the dead. If you haven't got that in place in your thinking, you're not reading the Bible as the Bible writers wrote it, and you'll inevitably be confused. So work at establishing that. You can have a look at our little green and white booklet called What Happens When We Die.